You are listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show, the only news and podcast in English about AS Cittadella. Hello everyone, welcome back to the CittaCalcioUsa show, episode number 169, coming to you on Friday, May 2nd. Yes, this time it is the 169th episode of the CittaCalcioUsa show. I made a mistake in the last podcast saying it was the 169th episode, but in fact it was 168, but now it is officially 169 episode. Like I said, Friday, May 2nd, it is right now. Is it over for Cittadella? 1-0 loss against Brescia on Thursday, on May the 1st, yesterday, as the time of recording. And three straight losses against relegation opponents. Is it coming to an end? The Cittadella's Serie B Serie B status, is it coming to an end? There's a lot of worrying and a lot of doubt right now in the Cittadella world, and basically they have a big mountain to climb entering the last 3 games of the season. It's really last few days, less than 2 weeks before the season end, and this upcoming week could be the biggest one in Cittadella's history, because in 1 week's time they're going to be hosting Bari, and that could be officially the day that Cittadella gets mathematically relegated from Serie B. But before then, we have another game to talk about. It is the upcoming match on Sunday that is coming up very quickly against Frosinone on May the 4th. So we're going to be talking all about this in this episode. We kind of view this show as a little bit of an express episode just because the quick turnaround, and we don't normally do this, but just given the fact that there is so much to talk about right now and every game matters, we felt like it was good to get an episode off today. So express episode, it's only me today, no guest. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we start, we want to also take a moment to tribute to Forza Granata, Giovanni Sciudiero, who had his funeral today, like we discussed in the previous episode with Enrico Leo. Forci, unfortunately, he sadly passed away on the 24th of April, if I'm not mistaken. That was last Thursday. Died quite, unexpectedly, and just, he passed away, and it was really tragic news. And Cittadella had the first home game since his death, and there was some really nice tributes to him. They had a big tifo, and then today was the funeral, and unfortunately I wasn't able to go, obviously, because I'm in the United States. I would have loved to gone, but unfortunately that's the issue is I'm thousands of miles away, and it was not possible. But hearing from everybody, seeing all the photos, videos of the event, it was very, very touching. And Forci, his the car, the coffin came down, the Porta, I think it was Porta Bassano or Porta, it was one of the gates, the main entrances in Cittadella. Maybe one of the listeners could help me out with this. And but basically the car came down, and all the supporters were there, not just the Sciudiero family, but Cittadella supporters, Rabaltai fans, just citizens of the town. It was really a big deal, and they had him out in front of the Duomo of Cittadella, and apparently they also drove by the stadium, and the supporters were waiting there as well. So it was a really, really big event today in Cittadella, and it's just, once again, just so sad of what happened in this last 2 weeks to Giovanni. Like I said, I met him. I was fortunate enough to meet him in Cittadella last year when I went, and he was just so incredibly nice, and I knew how much he really means to a lot of fans there that have followed Cittadella for all their lives, much longer than me. And so to see them lose a person like that, it's really really sad. So once again, we send our condolences to the Sciudiero family and for all his loved ones to him, because it's unbelievably sad. And it's just so unexpected as well. and it just makes it so heartbreaking. So I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have gone to the funeral and attended, but this is, we're paying our respects from here. And yeah, next time we go to Cittadella, whether that be in Serie B or Serie C, whatever it may be, we'll definitely pay our respects and tributes to Forci while we're in person, and possibly going to his burial sites. And like I said, a really beautiful tribute to Forci today with this funeral, just seeing everybody there. It was a very, very nice moment. So, we could only thank Forci for so much, and for, all he's done following the team. And see, that's another thing, seeing the team, post about it, seeing the club, commemorate him. It just shows you how deeply connected the fans of Cittadella are to the team. And it's just it makes Cittadella very unique. And that's what I really truly love about this club, is just the togetherness, and just the bonding of between the players and the fans. And we saw Alessio Vita and Alessandro Salvi give flowers to the Rabatai section before the game, and so that was a very nice tribute. So we will always remember Forci, and may he rest in peace. Hopefully Cittadella could do the Salvezza. They could survive relegation in his honor, and we'll see what happens with 3 games to go. But kind of moving on to this Brescia game that happened yesterday on May 1st. Man, it's a lot has happened in my life as well. So it seems like this game happened like 3 days ago, but it only actually happened like less than 48 hours ago. But kind of moving on to this Brescia game, it started off, very worrying, and there was a medical emergency in the crowd just before kickoff was about to start. They had the tribute to Forci. The Rabatai had an amazing banner, amazing tifo, and they had the moment of silence. And just as about the game was about to start, the referee stopped the game, or I think it was the Cittadella players calling for the referee to end, or to not the end, to not start the game, because they were pointing to someone in the crowd, and there was a medical emergency. It looks like it was 2 people that fell ill, and they had a medical emergency. And it got to a point where a helicopter had to be flown onto the field, or onto the practice field next door, and the ambulance came, and the medics arrived, and kickoff was eventually delayed by about an hour and 15 minutes. But I have never seen anything like this. I mean, I've seen, the games being suspended or paused due to a medical emergency. But, a helicopter on the field, it was really, really kind of crazy, and very, very scary. Luckily, we do know from the medical group, the ULIS 6 Uganea medical or hospital, I think it is, from their Facebook, they did say that both of these fans are in good condition, and they are currently recovering. So that's the most important thing. It's very, very good that these fans are in good condition, and it was just a very, very worrying scenes at the Tombolato, and definitely not one that you want to see. So luckily, as stated by the medics, that these fans are in good condition, and that's all we could hope for at the moment. So it's that's good news for that part. But moving on a little bit to the game, so Cittadella, 3rd straight loss, and against Sampdoria, Reggiana, and now Brescia, 3 teams inside the relegation zones, gifting them 9 points in total, puts Cittadella with 35 points in 19th place, 1 point still off of 17th place Sampdoria. But Reggiana gets another victory, this time against Modena, puts them 3 points clear of Cittadella in 16th place, and as well as Brescia with 3 points ahead of the Granata. So it's starting to look very dire for Cittadella, and it's basically the same story of the season and a lot of these games. Cittadella starts well. They had some chances. Okonkwo had a chance. De Sogus had a chance, as it was probably going goal bound, and then it got deflected off a volley. And, they were creating these chances. We knew that Brescia were very, very in a really tricky situation because they only won, I think, like 2 wins in their last 22 league games. And the first play they have, the real first chance on goal that they have, Borelli scores the header, and Cittadella was not able to get the back. And the XG really explains this because in the second half, when Cittadella needed to score a goal, they only created 0.08 expected goals. And it was just really like, listen, I said before the game that Cittadella, they needed to get something from this result because if they had lost, that would have been a third straight loss against a relegation opponent, going into a Frosinone game in Frosinone against a team that has been playing better, maybe not so much as we saw in March, but they're definitely much improved under Paolo Bianco. And then going into the home game against Bari, who are currently fighting for the playoffs, I just didn't have a good feeling if that was the case. And they lose, and they lose again. And it's once again zero goals scored, and another home loss. And I'm really worried for this team, and maybe I don't know. It's doesn't. I'm certainly not confident about the team surviving this year, and this loss kind of proves it because this was definitely a game that Cittadella needed to get a result, at least a point, to kind of put themselves on that platform to succeed, possibly get a result in Frosinone, and then set up the two big home clashes against Bari and Salernitana on the two final games of the season. But now a third straight loss against another relegation opponent where you kind of play well for certain bits of the game, but as soon as that first goal goes in, your heads drop. And that's what happened in this game as well. And it's just I hate to break it, but I just don't see how this team is gonna be able to survive even through a playout, because at the moment the mental state of the team is very low. They're very low on confidence. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of ideas on the field in the attacking phase. Pandolfi hasn't been looking sharp or hasn't making any chances. Dio is still, recovering. He's still not 90 minutes fit, and Okonkwo could only do so much with the balls that people of the players that serve him. So, I mean, it's hard because yes, one result. If Cittadella wins in Frosinone, then the race is back on, and it's certainly looking a whole lot better. And I'm not saying that it's not officially over for Cittadella, but in my opinion, Cittadella had to win or at least get something from this game, and they didn't, which makes me, really pessimistic about their survival chances and really low on confidence about how they're gonna save themselves from these next 3 games. And that's the reality. And the second half, I thought, just wasn't good enough. And for a team that had to get a goal in this, was really fighting for their lives, they only create 0.08 xg. And yes, they did hit the crossbar through Simone Rabi in the 80th minute or the 82nd minute, not sure, but that was kind of it. And it's kind of once again the story of the season when Cittadella goes down, conceding, trying to looking for a goal, and it just doesn't arrive. So that's that it's kind of my take. Like I said, I'm not counting the team out just yet, but in my opinion, I think it's looking really, really tricky for them to survive now, because 3 losses against teams who not only are in relegation fights but had been struggling. If you remember, Sampdoria had not won a game since February, and they beat Cittadella pretty comfortably as well. Reggiana had not won since January. They had been winless in 10 games. They were able to beat Cittadella 2-1. It was really 2-0 until Pandolfi scored with the last kick of the game. And kind of similar to that game, Cittadella starts well. They have some, good looks and decent chances. And then, Reggiana scored, and that's basically the game. The exact same thing in this game against Brescia. One goal, one chance for Brescia in the first half, and then just trying to get something in the second half that just it's never. Even Del Canto said after the game, it just never looked like Citta were going to score. And unfortunately, that's just been the case for majority of the season. And, you know, like I said, I've already said this many times this podcast, and I'm going to say it again, is until it's mathematically over, I think this team still has a chance. However, I just think it's a very low chance. And what I say that Cittadella is officially, or not officially, do I think that Cittadella is going to survive? I'm kind of leaning towards no, because just given the situation that they're in, just given the form that they are in, only 3 wins in 2025, none at home, only 1 point at home, and they've got their next 2 of their last 3 at home. It just doesn't seem like a good situation to be in right now. That's the case, and reality is that if Cittadella do get relegated to Serie C, they frankly deserve it, because they did not have a good year, obviously. They didn't have a good transfer market. I think they did not replace the guys that they, sold or replaced, like Pitarello or Cassano or Branca. I don't think they did a good enough job. And, whether that leaked into last season with the 8 straight defeats and, with Guarini sacking, if Del Canto was the right man to lead this team back in October, I don't know. And I guess we're going to be having that discussion in the summer if this happens. But if they do go to Serie C, you can't say they don't deserve it, because they kind of do. Because if you look at the stats, if you look at the numbers, all of that kind of tells you that Serie C is right around the corner. So, that's just my brutal, honest opinion about this team. And I do hope that this team kind of finds a way to pull themselves out of the fire in these last games. But at the moment, it just looks really, really difficult. And, we'll read you some stats right here. When Cittadella concede the first goal, we explained this in the last podcast with Enrico Leo. When they concede the first goal, they have 1 win, 1 draw, 17 losses now after conceding first against Brescia. That's the thing. We'll get into the Frosinone game in a little bit, but if Cittadella wants to survive, they need to find a way to score the first goal, because if they do score first, they are 8-2-1. One of those that loss came on the first day of the season against Salernitana, where Cittadella were leading in stoppage time, and then they lost. So it's been a long time since they lost when they scored the first goal. And the numbers are quite positive when they score first. So if they want a chance to survive, they need to find a way to stop conceding the first goal. Let me see here. Yeah, like I said, this is going to be kind of a faster podcast. So let's kind of dive right into the Frosinone game coming up on May 4th, 3 p.m. Central European time. That's your kickoff, 9 a.m. Eastern time at the Stadio Benito Sterpe. The last away game for Cittadella this season comes in Frosinone against much improved Frosinone. I mean, they have no wins in 4 games. Their form has dipped a little bit. I wouldn't say they're out of the woods just yet in the relegation race. They currently have 39 points, only 1 point above the relegation playout zone. Much better position than they were, I'd say maybe 2 months ago, when they were in 19th or 18th and really struggling at the bottom. But Paolo Bianco has come in. He had worked with Modena before and, has this playing style. So I'd say Frosinone is not out of it just yet, because they do have to play Palermo and Sassuolo yet, albeit I think Sassuolo is kind of on the beach now, because they have really clinched promotion and they're going to clinch the top spots. So that might be an easier game than it may seem, but it still is Sassuolo, and they're showing no signs of slowing down right now. Listen, about this game against Frosinone and also against Bari, against Salernitana, in the next upcoming games. Is the fact is right now 3 games remain. There is, what is it? I can't do math right now. Um, let me just calculate this. So 3 games, 270 minutes, possibly if Cittadella left in Serie B. At this point of the season, the style of play does not matter. It doesn't matter if Cittadella has their best game of the season in Frosinone. They have the best chances, and Frosinone only get one chance, and they score if they lose. If Città loses 1-0, that's not good enough. It does not matter the style of play. It really doesn't matter how Cittadella gets the result. It only matters that Cittadella does get the result. And whether that be like I was discussing with Enrico Leo, whether that's a goal off a corner kick and it hits off Pandolfi's face, goes off the crossbar and off the head of the Frosinone goalkeeper, and Città wins 1-0 with like having 18% possession, that they'll take that. And like we're at this point of the season where the style of play, it doesn't matter, and the experiment with some other teams or with other players and formation, it's there's no time for that. What really only matters is a victory, or at least a draw. And that's kind of that's how I kind of look at this Frosinone game. The Cittadella will be without Elio Capirose and Simone Tronchin due to yellow card suspension. I'm going to say it. Cittadella needs to get a point to stay alive, even though I've kind of already discussed already that, I'm really seeing it very difficult for Cittadella to survive. And they're not going to be out of it just yet. Even if they lose, they still won't be mathematically relegated. But I think, they have to get at least a point. But, it may not be enough, because this next upcoming match day 37, Brescia has to play Juve Stabia. That's a tricky game. Sampdoria travel away to Catanzaro. Catanzaro's kind of been slipping at the moment. Let me see. Reggiana hosts Spezia. Spezia, that second place is out of reach, so you could see them, I don't know, maybe taking the foot off the gas and maybe just focusing on playoffs. Salernitana hosts Mantova. We know how much better Salernitana is at the Stadio Orecchi. Against the Mantova side, if you have to say if they win that game, Mantova, that's they'll probably be safe because they're at 43 points, and I don't think they'll be getting relegated at that point. So even though Cittadella may get a point in this game, it may not be enough, because they could be going into that Bari game with the threat of relegation, and they could be relegated on the 9th at the Tombolato, and then that game against Salernitana could not matter. It depends, because there are still some really important relegation fixtures to be played on match day 38, the same day that Cittadella plays Bari. Sampdoria hosts Salernitana, that's 17 versus 18. And then on the final day of the season, Brescia hosts Reggiana. So there is still a lot of variables, and that's why I say get a point in Frosinone to just give yourself a little bit of a chance in the final 2 games against Salernitana and Bari, because I'd say if Cittadella are to go down, they need to go down with some sort of fight, and they can't just slowly sleepwalk their way, just a slow death to Serie C with not winning a game, or not even just continuing to lose. They need to get something. They need to show just a little bit of fight, even if they are to go down. And this is the last road game of the season. Yes, Cittadella has been better on the road, 7 wins this year, but that's still 9 losses. That's the most losses away from home since the 2016-17 season, and they're going to try to avoid a 10th loss and get their first win since the start of March, and that was a away win in Castellammare di Stabia. So listen, I don't know. It's a quick turnaround, so you could see some changes in the lineup, but I've been saying, I'm going to keep saying that we're at a stage of the season where the style of play, the way you play doesn't necessarily matter. It's the result. And if Cittadella walks away with a draw, or even better, a win, I think, you would see it as a good game regardless of how they play. So that's kind of all I have for this episode of this CittaCalcioUsa show. Kind of a express show. I mean, we are going kind of long. It's about 25 minutes that we've already recorded. So I'm going to end it here. Like I said, Cittadella playing away to Frosinone, the last away game of the season, or at least possibly the regular season. There could be a relegation playoff. May 4th, 3 p.m. Central European Time is your kickoff, 9 a.m. Eastern Time at the Stadio Benito Sterpe. Cittadella looking to stay alive in the relegation race as they currently sit 19th place with 35 points, 1 point behind Sampdoria and Salernitana, 3 points behind 16th Reggiana, and automatic safety place Brescia in 15th. And Frosinone currently 4 points ahead of them. So even if they win, they'll be 1 point below them with still 2 games to go. So even though I think that, the road is coming to an end for Cittadella, they could still prove me wrong. And we will see what happens on Sunday. But for me, thank you for listening to this episode. Once again, send our condolences to the Sciudiero family for the passing of Forci. Giovanni Sciudiero, Forci Granata, as we call him in Cittadella. A very nice funeral today, very beautiful, and may he rest in peace. And Forci will always be with the supporters, he'll always be with the team, and we will never forget him. So we pay our condolences to him and the Sciudiero family. And we'll see if Cittadella could survive relegation in his honor as they take on Frosinone this upcoming Sunday. So thank you for listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show. We will see you next week previewing the Bari game as well as recapping this Frosinone side. To follow us, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, CittaCalcioUsa, and CittaCalcioUsa.com for articles, news, match previews, all that stuff about Cittadella at CittaCalcioUsa.com. Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week. And as always, Forza Citta. Thank you for listening to the CittaCalcioUsa show. If you liked it, please share and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at CittaCalcioUsa. See you next time, and remember, Forza Citta.